Hi there, I am the CRM Ninja, and on today's episode of the Oops Factor, joining us from the top of a London bus is none other than Mark Oburoh. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on, and lovely to see you using public transport.
Yeah, it's my way of easing myself back in to our new world, even if it is just virtually for now. So please bear with me.
That's fine. That's fine. As long as the conductor doesn't come upstairs and suddenly ask you for your ticket and interrupt us, I think we'll be fine.
No, we should be good. You can see I'm very well distanced as well. I chose not to use a mask just so I could be heard, and for those who may want to read my lips as well.
Very good. Very good. So, apart from obviously traveling on buses, I understand that you have a hobby, which is why I have this background, because it's not just random furniture. This is IKEA furniture. But not only is it IKEA furniture, it's IKEA furniture that's not used for a specific purpose. It's IKEA furniture hacking. How did you get into it?
If I'm honest with you, it's because sometimes you see stuff in IKEA and it looks like it's going to make sense, and then actually when you get it home, it doesn't quite fit. You're forced to either hack it by instructions and say, actually, maybe if I don't put that top piece on, it will fit, or maybe if I cut this piece down. And then after time, it became a bit of a thing. And it's a bit of a theme. If you search on your favorite search engine, IKEA hack, and the product, you'll just find a different use for a particular product or a new way of using it. So it's not just something you've described, which is unused, but it's just something you would never even think of using an IKEA thing for. So an IKEA shelf that turns into actually be table legs, as an example, because it's just the right thickness or the right length. So it became a bit of a thing, hanging things that weren't supposed to be hung,
How
having
extreme have you gone?
walk-in wardrobe. So you know when you've wanted to create that open look and you grab a bunch of packs wardrobes, but they're not
Yeah,
always the right height, and you can just about get them the right height with a bit of hacking and a bit of plywood underneath to give you that effect. So when I used to stay at my mum's house, me and my brother had something very similar, just all the way down the wall.
very nice. What other things have you put together?
Most things actually, that's the one thing I do find a lot of joy in putting IKEA or any furniture together. So I'm not a massive furniture person, but all of my wardrobes, all of our standing units, mirrors, myself and my partner and my wife, we build them all.
Got it. So if anybody watching this doesn't like putting together IKEA furniture, are they able to contact you?
See, people say that all the time. So I may open up an account on TaskRabbit and then offer my services via TaskRabbit, who are a big IKEA partner. So just in case if you are struggling, I would say TaskRabbit, no endorsement, no sponsorship here. It's just again, if you want to find someone just like me who's looking to build some IKEA furniture for you, they're a great shout.
I have a friend who used to do it years back. I helped him occasionally. It can be quite cathartic. Um, it can be quite, and I know, of course, the websites. I've done a couple of IKEA hacks myself and such, and there are some just great things out there. Great computer desks, for instance, using kitchen work surfaces
Yeah.
and other stuff. And you want triple 49-inch screens, not a problem.
See, that's exactly it. You've got it in one. And Reddit's another great place, and Pinterest is another great place.
Yep, indeed so. Indeed so. So going from hacking IKEA furniture into being the actual item that you really need to the oops factor, what do you have to share with us today?
Um, so on the theme of something that's gone oops, and you have to bear with me if I talk quite vaguely, it's because I'm trying to respect the situation in which it happened in. But
That's
it would
fine.
be probably when I just gotten confident in my role at my company, and unfortunately got hit with a cyber attack. So this is a very, very big customer, both in our eyes and in the world in terms of what they do. And I knew we didn't have much time to fix it. And it's the first time ever I'd gone through a cyber attack. So it's brand new. There wasn't much of a playbook in my head, or there was very, very limited information because of who this particular customer was and because of the impact this was having. And
Okay.
it happened, as you'd imagine, on a Friday. at
Everything just
4:45.
seems to happen on Fridays. Everything.
At 4:45, and I just remember thinking this would just have to happen to me, wouldn't it? And it was one area I thought I was confident in, which was the business applications platform, but then it spread out to the whole of what we understood to be the Office 365 environment. So very quickly, I was like, this is a lot more than just backup and restore. And it was tough. It was tough. We knew it was going to hit the news, and it did. So at that point, it was like, oh, please don't let my name be in the news. Please don't let my name be in the news. And it was really around being innovative and trying to understand a process that, again, I hadn't gone through before. It was quite, I would say, new. I won't say new to my organization, but I would say first time for maybe, say, this customer. I'm going through it and being able to work with us and work with me to try to get them through it. It was a
Okay,
long
so
weekend and week, I would say, actually.
I'm not surprised, especially in large organizations, depending, of course, on the type of cyber attack, it can take a massive amount of time to deal with it and even longer to recover. So, with it being something new, and obviously something which you did not cause, let's be quite frank with this, right? It wasn't
Yes.
you dropped a database by mistake. This was something
No.
external that happened.
Yeah.
Um, and being your first major one of this, how what was your first reaction to how to deal with it?
I think that was it. I think I was normally I'm quite quick thinking. It's like, all right, this is what we're going to look at. This is what we're going to talk to. But for the first time in a long time, especially being the technical lead in that situation, so I had the responsibility of thinking of a plan, and I'm always quite confident. That's where my confidence comes from. I'll have a plan. This is okay. I was just like empty, and I was empty for a while because I think it was just the fear of this is going to hit the news. Blocked out my normal way of thinking. What I kept
Okay.
thinking about is this is going to hit the news. This is my IT career done with. It's going to become you're the guy that was involved with the so and so, and that was all I could think about. So for a split second, I was a bit like, oh. And then afterwards, I was able to kind of kick in a bit and think, okay, actually, this is some things you could start looking at.
Got it. So how did you remove that blocker? As in, if you were giving advice to someone to say, look, you can never fully prepare for when something large like this comes down, but here are some tips and tricks for how to start approaching it. What would you say to somebody?
With that customer, it was difficult because there's an element of I told you so as well. So you can imagine we've been kind of signaling, hey, these red flags could turn into really big red flags, and these could cause
Oh,
challenges. And
it was
maybe,
one of those things whereby you've been warning them and that there's going to be an avalanche if they don't stop. Or they don't fix stuff, and you can see the avalanche coming, and they haven't done anything about it, and then the avalanche, in this case, the cyber attack happens.
yeah, and I'm not a pessimistic, so I'm not so much an avalanche, more of a let's just do this because in the real world we would never drive a car without car insurance. One, because it's illegal. Two, and because it's more financially dangerous to you than it is not to have insurance. So that was kind of always been my push, and I think that was the mistake. I think maybe I could have been similar to what you're saying, which is a little bit more hardline to say, well, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. So that slowed me down, and I think the biggest thing that gave me confidence was the worst has happened. There is a cyber attack, so it can't get in my head any worse than what's happened now. So rather than worry about what's happened, it's quicker to now start looking at how we can start closing down some of the impacts of what's happened. So it's not so much crying about you didn't listen to me or this is your fault. It's more, okay, let's do a bit of an assessment, understand what the damage is, and then start working on the plan. So I think that split second to say it's done. This is probably the worst that's going to happen. If I want to kind of change this around, it's quicker I flick around to that way of thought.
Got it. Yeah, no, that's very good. So I'm assuming that the client recovered from it.
Yeah.
Did you say anything to the client about this would have been mitigated or not have happened at all if he did your advice to begin with?
It is, and I'll be honest with you, and those who know me know I'm super honest. Sometimes we can experience social biases and maybe subconscious biases, and sometimes just differences in views. For an organization this size, their perception of the world may be different. I'm lucky enough that I work in an organization where I'm exposed a lot more to modern day encounters and experiences. So sometimes my bubble is different to their bubble. But
Right.
I find that these bubbles sometimes stop us both at a subconscious level, be it because of social or age or technical experience, or just because of we know how to do this and this works. They can come into play. So I was a little bit more understanding, and that's, I guess, where working where I do work, I get some of that teaching and then some experience. Because I'll be honest, I was hurt to begin with. I was like, oh, this is exactly it. Now I'm going to lose my job because you didn't listen. And I actually did my job. This is going to be hard to prove because if I did my job, then technically you wouldn't be going through this, which is really difficult.
Well,
Um,
to a point, you can in your job, and of course I know what you do, day to day, or at least I know some of what you do day to day. You can only advise, but it's up to the actual client to decide whether they want to implement or not. You can't force it on them. In fact, the only thing I think you can force is required upgrades because people just can't delay upgrades anymore.
no, they
And
can. And
nowadays,
that's what they did. That's what they did, EY, in this situation. It's exactly that.
oh boy,
It's
oh,
exactly that.
without knowing, I hit the nail on the head there. Caveat: I had
um,
no idea. I had
And
no
again,
idea.
that wasn't the sole problem, but as we know, updates can contribute because some
Yeah,
exploits are found easier and they can get in. So it wasn't the sole cause or the sole reason, but it did add because now you have to run around and patch everything up.
yeah.
Um,
But again, you cannot force them to do it.
no,
They
no.
they take, and I know of organizations which have massive risk assessment teams, and they take risks and they decide. I mean, an analogy I guess would be slightly possibly car rental companies. Car rental companies don't actually have insurance. I mean, when you go, you purchase insurance from them, but the big car rental companies, they lodge a bond with the government, and they self-insure because in the amount that they'll pay out will be a lot less than if they actually had to get insurance across their fleet fully.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
companies take risk assessments and move forward based on that. We can only provide the best information possible to help them try and make the right judgment. But at the end of the day, it's their call. And as long as we cover ourselves by making sure that there is a paper trail, very important. Hopefully, we don't lose our jobs.
And if I'm honest, they do so much for us as civilians and us as residents. To give you a bit of a hint, I
I'm
felt
not asking.
compelled to
I'm not
help.
asking.
I know, but I felt compelled to do our bit. And the team we did work with are a great bunch as well. Really willing to, I guess sometimes some people learn differently through experience, through being spoken.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, if I had to ask you for three quick bullet points about how to react in extreme situations like that, what would your three bullet points be?
First of all, the first bullet point would be to squash your saboteur. So your saboteur is that thing that always sabotages you and stops you from being able to think clearly or to move on to the next stage of things. So in my example, I said it was the fear. It was that fear of my name being in the news. So that saboteur kicked in straight away, public embarrassment, public shame, and I couldn't think straight. So I'd say in those situations, just take some time out. Some people may meditate, do something with their fingers, maybe deep breathe, but just get present enough to realize if your saboteur is taking effect or if it is, just to control it. The second is that optimism I try to always promote, which is if it's already happened, then it's the worst that can generally happen. I'm not saying there's not something else that could go worse, but let's just imagine you're at the worst. So get over the fact it's happened and then try to gear back into how can we start looking at what the impact of this is so we can fix it. And then the third is just to learn from it. So I learned so much from that experience. So I take each experience as a lesson and I really do try to say, okay, what did I learn from that and how can I do something differently? Those would be my three.
Definitely. Wonderful. I think those are three really, really good bullet points. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing that with us.
More than welcome. More than welcome. Again, I'm very humbled that I was allowed to share my small piece.
Definitely. You more than deserve it. And I think everybody who knows you will agree with that.
Thank you, kind words.
No problem. Well, viewers, we hope that you have learned some important things from this, including remember the 3 bullet points that Mark just shared with us. Feel free to take a look at the rest of the Oops Factor playlist, subscribe to the channel, and take a look at the blog. And if you would like to come and share your own Oops Factor story, hit the link in the description below, put in your details, and I'd love to get you on the show. But above all, have a wonderful day.